Hey Heifers, and welcome to Angus IT, the podcast all about anxiety, depression, and finally revealing to you my secret life project. I have been talking about this thing for months now, and it's been annoying, right? Like I keep going, oh, I have a mystery secret life project, and you're probably like, can you just tell us? And I've been like, I'm the Wizard of Oz, you'll never know. And you're like, why bring it up, you evil witch? The thing is, guys, the Secret Life Project is done. And we're now on to the Secret Life Project 2, which I haven't come up with a better name for. I realize that's probably going to be confusing, so I am open to suggestions on what to name this sequel. Maybe I will just keep it there. I love the mystery behind it. Yeehaw. The reason I kept it secret was for a couple of reasons, which I'm sure by the title you will already know why, but just in terms of like professional things, I'm not just going to blurt out my plans 4 months in advance of actually doing it. I wanted to make sure that I wanted to do it. And also, I didn't necessarily tell a lot of people at first what my plan was, because I think it's always important when you make a big decision sometimes. I highly recommend talking to people in your life. Obviously, they know you and they can help you work through certain things. They might offer different perspectives, advice. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you. And for me, this was such a big decision that I wanted to make sure that with myself, I sat with it and I felt confident. And at the end of the day, I knew it was right. And I didn't want to let myself get influenced by what someone else might say. And that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have accepted what they said, that I wouldn't have listened to their advice, because I really respect the people in my life. But I don't want to say it was fragile. It's just something that's so big that I needed to make sure I didn't chicken out, if that makes sense. I wanted to make sure I followed through with it. And since this is something that's unconventional to do, I was worried that it would be so easy for me to hit the reverse button and not follow through because someone happened to voice what a little concerning voice in the back of my head might say. Like, you know, that little voice. You're probably still mad at me. You're like, Elaine, you have rambled on now and still not told us what the Secret Life Project was, even though it's in the title, but you need me to say it. So I will now release it. My Secret Life Project is that I quit my 9-to-5 and I don't have another job lined up. Ta-da! I am sure some of you are like, are you insane? Are you for real? And I am for real. Insanity, it's, I don't know, it's floating out there. Jury is still figuring it out, but I did that. I debated if I should come on and talk about it because, you know, it's my life. I don't have to share everything with you. Gosh, get out of my business, even though I'm the one who's shared everything so far. But, you know, I didn't want to just like throw it out there because it happened. You know, there's some things that you have to sit with and be like, you know, what do I want to share? What don't I want to share? I also was worried because obviously I will be looking at some sort of job in the future, and I didn't know if this was going to look stupid to somebody else. But then I realized, A, I'm not going to lie to future employers about why I left my job. B, this could be a really cool audio cover letter if they find this podcast, God help me. So yeah, I debated it and I just decided like, you know what, this is unabashedly me, and yeah, I'm not going to lie about it. So what I'm about to tell you is what I would tell them. And so maybe I can do two birds, one stone with this thing and just release it out there. I've broken this out into a couple different sections. I'm going to try my best to keep this in a like streamlined format and not get excited and bounce around, but also no guarantees. So I'll have timestamps in the description below if you need to be like, what are you saying? Hold on, let me jump here. Or if you're just bored with me, you can do whatever you want. We love freedom. Okay, so the what the hell is going on, Elaine? Well, here's the thing. I am in my mid-20s, okay? I'm a youth, and I've worked corporate jobs now. You know, I've had my time out of college, and your 20s are all about you figuring out what you want to do. It's a hot mess of a time. I don't know who thought 20s are amazing. Everyone says 30s great, and I totally believe them. I think it'll be an amazing time because I've learned so much more now that I want to take that knowledge and go do other things and not just like be the bumbling young 20-year-old I was and like, you'll get through it, my children. it'll be okay. I don't know if enough people talk about how terrifying those years are, because you see somebody who's like killing their career on Instagram and all this stuff. No matter what it be, I don't think you necessarily always know what you want when you're in your 20s. And even if you do, you don't start where you probably want to. You have to like climb up the ladder. So it's just hard in general. And for me, it's been an experience, obviously. You've heard about my mental health journey, which has been its own fun side adventure. But in terms of my career, I have never really known exactly what I want to do. There have been things I like, but I'm not someone who is like, I know I exactly want to be a doctor. You know, that's a very structured process. You go to school, you do your residency, you know, there's a step plan there. The things I wanted to do, I was like, well, I like working with people and I enjoy being creative. And beyond that, I love learning new things. And that's pretty ambiguous. And, you know, you job search that and you don't like it's like too much. And you're like, oh God. And also like you have no experience usually as a wee 20-year-old, whatever. You might have an internship, you know, you maybe worked some jobs here and there, but the entry level experience that terrifies you when you look for office jobs, if that's something you're doing, you're like, oh, well, I don't have that necessarily. So hopefully I get something. So it's a hot mess, right? I've gone through that. And I started in human resources and I learned a lot from that job. The only thing was that it turned out not to be for me. And also it was not in a city I wanted to live in. When I graduated college, I wanted to leave the state, actually. I wanted to go try out something wild and new. And so when I ended up staying in the state, I actually just kind of fell in on myself. I knew it wasn't for me. And so I found my current job, which was to work at a publishing company, and that just aligned with a lot of things. I'm a writer. I love working with creatives. I was going to get to work on a creative team and help authors complete their books. It was in a new city, and it just really clicked. I was a project manager at this company, and I learned so much while I was there. I met amazing people. Like, I've never had coworkers like that. Like, we're all friends. I go to their weddings and baby showers and birthdays, and we even just, you know, still hang out. Like, I don't know, it was an amazing work environment. And then it got confusing because on paper, it sounded amazing. I had this title. I was working at a publishing company. It's hard to break into publishing. My parents would always be like very excited to tell everybody that their daughter had done this amazing thing. But that was on paper. Over time, the job started to wear on me. We're allowed to boost ourselves up here at Angus IT. I think you should do it as well. I'm really good at what I do. I can handle a lot on my plate. I am very used to working in stressful, high-paced environments. That, I don't believe, is what really started affecting me. What kind of started happening is that while I thought for a second, I was like, do I suck at this job suddenly? Do I like suck at doing anything? No, what was really happening was the job was sucking the life from me. The people in my life said I wasn't me anymore. I wasn't really present. I reached a point where I was afraid to send emails. That's not like me. I would have to work with my friend and be like, I am so afraid of sending an email and getting this response. And I don't know, I felt blocked, and that wasn't me. I'm a dedicated worker and I'm great at problem solving. I thrive off of that, actually. You know, I love a good escape room, so I'm totally into having things like that in my work life, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was so confused. You can probably hear it in my voice, maybe, or even just in the episode topics that happened this year, just how I wasn't feeling it. And, you know, obviously part of that was it being 2020, but I'll be honest, for me, the majority of my heaviness was because of my job. My creativity was completely shot because I personally was worn out. There was no Elaine to go around. I would finish work, I would come home and not be able to do anything. And one of the reasons I wanted to have a job was so I could work on creative things on the side. Like, I know I'm not going to become a millionaire doing the things I love doing. It'd be cool to, like, you know, build up some capital to then, like, invest in myself. That sound like really fancy. I sounded very fancy there to me. That was the idea. Is like, I wanted to be able to have this job and then be able to do the other things. And we reached a point where I couldn't do anything outside of this job. And this job wasn't necessarily my life's passion. So I'm not going to go into all the details, mostly because they're boring, but I just reached a point where I lost my passion for this job that I once had. Which sends us into the why section. Why did I do this wild thing? Who does this? Who quits their job? So it's hard to say exactly what changed. Again, 2020 was just a really hard year. And I think I did sit with myself and I had a lot of time to think. And I was just pondering, what do I want out of my life? I was at my home. I wasn't kind of in the continual rat race of, commute to the office, stay in the office, come home, flop. I was doing it all in my home. I was taking more walks with my dog and stuff. It was just a different routine. And I think anytime you switch up a routine, your brain kind of gets a little jolt and it's like, oh, haha, I have some life in me. I knew I needed to change something, but I didn't know what it was. And when you realize there's a different destination you want to head toward, but you can't exactly make moves to get there because, pandemic, or again, you don't know what it is, you start to feel really trapped. And that weighs on you. And that is how I felt for the majority of this year. I felt like I had trapped myself in a situation where I didn't feel like I was thriving or getting to use my talents, creative shenanigans. And that brings me to my next point, is that doesn't mean, again, that I wasn't good at what I did. I learned and excelled at a lot of aspects of my job that aren't necessarily deep passions of mine. That's just what life is, right? So like Excel, timelines, customer service, budgets, all that stuff. I learned and accomplished that knowledge, but that isn't the same as really connecting with the end result of the work. So that isn't to say that you can just avoid those things. There's always going to be the gritty detail work of any job. I mean, weirdly, I do enjoy making spreadsheets, but you know what I mean? You can't avoid it. But I think having a job that is filled with these tasks that don't align with what my calling, ooh, that sounds fancy, my calling seems to be, can wear you down. I know I've said that 10 times. It's just the phrase I have right now because I'm worn down. See? Oh no. Again, however, and yes, high potential future employer, if you are listening to this, don't I sound so charming? This doesn't mean that I won't ever take a job that isn't perfectly fitting in my magical wonderland of life. I didn't just quit this job to pursue something random and everything needs to be perfect with what I do next. And heaven forbid, it's X, Y, or Z. I could still be a project manager at a different company. Who knows? I don't. That's the thing. Everything I've learned so far has helped me go further in my creative endeavors still too. This podcast, for example, I project manage it. I have a plan. I set up dates. When I'm not exhausted and feel like a useless garbage bag, I usually have to focus on the things that are the income, but now I don't have one. So, but I was able to apply my career knowledge to what I love doing. So even if the next job isn't necessarily this creative, perfect, fairy dust thing, I think I could still, I just like learning things. This is my version of going to different schools or something, right? You get something out of everything you do and you meet people and those people have ideas and it just leads to really cool things. So again, I'm not against ever having a corporate job or, doing project management or what have you. It's just, I need to take the step back and figure out what is it that I want to do? A further example, again, focusing on the podcast, I love this podcast. I have so much fun talking to myself, to other people. It's a joy. But you know what isn't my favorite part of being a podcaster is editing. Now, I have fun with it. I do actually get a lot of joy when I do silly things like the Christmas special, adding in sound effects, having a ton of fun with that. But in terms of me having to do the entire process of the podcast myself, editing does not rank high on that list. I like talking more than I like staring at a screen and cutting out the stupid things I say, so no one ever hears them. So editing comes with that, and I'm willing and happy to do it because of the end goal of producing an episode. So I'm hoping to find that in my next job, something where I can feel connected to what I'm working on, and those details don't feel like they're a burden. It's just I'm happy to do it because it helps me get to that end goal or the next step or whatever. The next section. Elaine, how the hell are you going to pull this off? You quit your job in a pandemic. What? I get it. It's kind of weird, but I am in a very unique position in my life right now. I do not have any dependents. All I have is my dog, right? That sounded really sad. All I have is my dog. But no one relies on me and my income aside from me. And I am young enough that I know if anything horrible happens, I can bounce back. I haven't invested in a house. Like, I don't have anything big like that going on in my life, though fingers crossed my card needs to last, everybody. It is like 14 years old. Please, fingers crossed for me. I don't really want to deal with that right now, but it's okay. Fine. Everything works out for a reason. But everything has intersected that this is probably one of the few times in my life I would have the chance to quit my job, pause, and figure out what I want to do next. A lot of people don't get to think about that until maybe they retire. Or they think about it and they just don't think they can. And some people can't. Sometimes that's your situation. So I realized that I was in a very great position, a unique position, a very thankful position to be able to take this Rumspringa, this sabbatical. And I felt guilty about it at first, I'll be honest. I was like, this seems like a very selfish thing to do. And maybe it is, but what I do does not necessarily affect the entire world. In that aspect, I think you can make a change in the world. But me doing this doesn't mean I'm kicking someone else in the gut, So once I realized that, and I realized that this was kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity that a lot of people don't get to have, I was like, I should do this. And, quitting your job in a pandemic is bold. But weirdly enough, I have not been stressed at all. There's a lot to be stressed about with this instability. And, I don't know what's going to happen. But I haven't been stressed. I haven't been up late at night about this. I haven't felt like I had to do this. It didn't feel like it was my only escape option. I thought it was best, though, because I didn't really have a chance to look at other job options while I was at this job because I was so exhausted. And I knew that I was going to get stuck in an endless cycle. So with that, I felt like I needed to be the one to break the cycle. I haven't felt anxious. And as an anxious person, that's kind of wild to think. I don't think I know anybody who's just quit their corporate job, at all. I hear about it online. I see people and they're marketing things and they're like, how to quit your job, pay me $1,500 and I'll tell you, which is ironic, but I don't really know anyone personally who's just done it. So in a way, I feel like I'm kind of the trailblazer here. I'm that friend. I think that's really what I just mean. I'm that friend. It's like, oh, Elaine, okay. But I don't know. The second I knew I was going to do this, I felt a 180 in my life. I felt completely different. My brain just opened up and I felt like I could function again. I knew there was an end in sight and I knew that there was a new chapter beginning. And I was so excited because I trust myself to make the next step and the next decision in my career. And I have not felt that confident, courageous, or bold, I feel like, in my life before to that extent. I believe I have those qualities from the get-go, I will say, but this, I'm sure you will agree, is quite the statement to do. I assumed everyone in my life would tell me, don't do it, Elaine. You're crazy. This is super stupid, which again is why I didn't really tell people in my life at first, because I knew I had to do it and it was going to be hard to not have people support you and be in your corner. But every person in my life was completely supportive. And I think that should probably really bring home how much I wasn't me. The fact that everyone was like, you need to go. You are not you. And I support you leaving and not necessarily having a job immediately lined up. I have an amazing support system. I'm very lucky for that as well. Even telling my boss, she was really happy for me. She was sad to see me go, but she was so excited for me. She's offered to be a reference. There were a lot of other people at the company too who were happy and offered themselves as references as well. And I guess I wouldn't have expected that in a way. I don't know. I mean, I tend to undercut myself sometimes with that, but I was a really big part of the culture of the company. I worked with a lot of different people. And I love making little work buddies. And so all my work buddies just were so supportive and excited for me. So the support really helped me follow through on everything. Though I will admit, I think I would have been able to do it regardless. I would have done it. It just would have been a lot harder, which I think is also important in case you don't have people supporting you in your life. And it's something that means a lot to you and it doesn't harm other people and doesn't harm yourself. Sometimes you just got to stick with who you are and do it. So what's next? I wish I knew. No, just kidding. I am not just taking a vacation. I'm using this first week as a vacation. It's just kind of like a detox, a settling in. Terrifying things might happen where I'm like, what have I done? And then I'll be like, no, it's okay. Like for me, I'm just trying to level out and accept what I've done. There have been two mindsets I've had where it has felt I already did this for 2 months, and another one where it's like, it doesn't feel real yet. So we'll just see what happens. But I'm not just sitting around. I've got a plan. So what's next? The podcast. I am excited to be able to have regular episodes with a regular schedule. I think I'm going to have a ton of new ideas. I'm going to expand on some other areas I've just never had time to do. There is always more an indie podcaster can do for their podcast, but they're one person. They don't usually have a team. I specifically don't even have a co-host, so I can't, trade back and forth on commentary. It's all me. I don't get to trade off on editing. It's a solo adventure. I have to make all the decisions. Not to say that one's necessarily easier than the other. It's just for me and my schedule, I have to do the editing and the thinking and the eating Taco Bell and procrastinating as one does. So I'm excited to finally have time to adventure into some things that I normally wouldn't get to have time to. Like, I don't know, maybe I could actually be more available on my social media, even though I am regularly on my Instagram stories. That's at AngusIT. Oh, she did. But I don't know, there's just a lot more I could do to try to promote the podcast. I would love for people to listen to this podcast, obviously. And fun fact, the best way that people learn about podcasts is through word of mouth. So if you love this podcast and think somebody else might, you might potentially, if you feel nice, be like, hey, you should listen to this. That would tickle my toes. But yeah, I have a much better headspace now, and I have more rooms for rent for new ideas. If that makes sense, like I have more brain space to dedicate to this, and I'm so excited to see what that brings about. Onward to writing. I love writing. I don't usually have time to write on top of the job and then doing the podcast and then ideally sprinkling in some socializing. Writing, I didn't have it in me, but I love writing. And so I'm really going to ramp up my writing, and I'm going to submit my essays and writings to places. I'm actually going to submit it. I am going to craft it, edit, and submit it. So really upping my game, because even if, the next job happens and maybe it falls to the wayside again, at least I have the unique opportunity right now to just go super in on it and be like the writing goddess I want to be. I did not like that. I'm sorry. Other things, I'm going to keep learning, obviously. Again, I'm not just going to sit on my butt and not do anything during this sabbatical. And something I'd love to learn more about is editing. I feel like I have a pretty solid grasp. I can do a lot of cool stuff, but I'd love to know more about the why, what certain effects are, and, how to manipulate them more. Because again, if I do dabble into offering editing services and editing other people's podcasts, I want to make sure I'm offering them the absolute best. And so again, I feel like I have a lot under my belt. I can probably start doing that now. I just want to, that's something I could learn more about. And now I have the time to dedicate to learning more about it. Speaking is something I have wanted to do for a while. When I looked at what I loved about my old job, it was anytime I got to do a presentation, because I am able to engage audiences with really boring things. Now, the speaking engagements I would like to do would be about exciting things, at least in my head. I've thought about talking about being a mental health podcaster from the lens of maybe someone who's not a professional, or, sharing how to share stories, or even comedy and the healing effects of that and the balance of comedy and crass or something. I don't know. I have a couple ideas. But I want to create slide decks and kind of have some of these presentations available. And I would love to submit them to conferences like She Podcasts, Podfest, maybe other webinars out there. I don't know. But I think I've reached a point where I do know enough. I think I've doubted myself in the past, but I am a veteran podcaster now, and I have stuff to share. I think that I would highly enjoy doing that, and I would like to think people would enjoy listening to me. And if I get a speaking engagement, I would probably scream into the universe. So if you hear a random screech, it's me. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Also at bat on the what now that you've quit your job, Elaine. I am maintaining a routine, because you cannot function without routine regardless of how loose or structured it is. This is not a giant vacation. I'm just going to keep stressing that, possibly out of my own insecurity that people are going to think that's all I'm doing. I have a plan. And with this plan, I will have an occupation or an income. I don't care what it is. I am hustling. So I have a structured daily routine I've set up, and I've filled up my Google Calendar, and involves working out, walking Fern, and then dedicated sections to focusing on I do the podcast from 10 to 12. I'm going to have a writing section here to here, job searching or attending job webinars and stuff, just figuring out what keywords to look for, what things, maybe YouTube classes or things I can find to brush up on some skills. I get to create my own work day, and it gets to be all fun things, and I get to choose it. It's going to be pretty fun. Another big thing is budgeting. Obviously, I have a budget and I need to stick to that budget. And I think this is going to be a really good lesson for me. I think a lot of people get terrified to look into their finances a little heavier. We keep a good eye, we don't really want to be in debt. So, we keep that in check, hopefully, if possible. But I don't know a lot about finances, and I'd like to know more. I'd like to be more financially literate. And so I think this will be a good way to catch myself on emotional spending, which I've talked about before, like Taco Bell. I'm going to have to probably cut her out. I did buy a $25 Taco Bell gift card with a Christmas Amazon gift card I got, so I can at least ration it out for a little bit. But, in general, I can't just get Chipotle because I'm sad or I had a bad work day. I can't just buy something off Amazon because it'll make me feel better. If I buy things now, it really has to be crucial, like a battery for a fire alarm that won't stop chirping every 2 minutes and drives you to insanity and makes your dog scared. Random example. I don't know where I pulled that out from. Did I have to do that on Christmas Day? Was I wearing my red velour sweatpants with an ugly Christmas sweater and dangly Ohio earrings my parents had just got me, and I hadn't realized that this was the getup I had approached a gas station with to just buy batteries? Please hire me, though. I'm a really good employee. I'm very quirky. I bring a fun culture. Anyway, I'm excited to learn about finances and to get my stuff together. Lastly, on my what's next thing is getting my motivation back. I think this is a great life experiment for me, these couple of months I'm about to have. I am a natural go-getter. I am restless, so I always love to, keep going. And it really sucked to not feeling that this past year. And ever since I knew I was going to quit, I have felt completely different. I have energy. I've actually already written an essay, in the span of 3 weeks of knowing I was going to quit into my last day. I have written an essay. I haven't really done that in a year plus. I've had feebled attempts, but this just came out of me, which is how things used to do. I'd get inspired and just crank it out. And that happened. And it was oh, giggly googa. I don't do that. I don't know where that came from. See, it's just, she's back. The wild Elaine is back. Yeah, but I've just been cranking out ideas left and right. It's not even that I feel, It's not even that I feel like an old me has returned. It's that I finally entered the version of who I want to be. Final thoughts. Bold moves lead to great things. I truly believe that. Wow, I sounded really fancy and intellectual there, didn't I? Bold moves lead to great things. I truly believe that. This has taken a lot of planning and a lot of courage. This was not an easy choice. This is probably the hardest decision I've ever made because it goes against everything I've ever been taught. You stay stable, you stay at a corporate job, and you don't just quit without having a job lined up. And that took a lot of unlearning to be I don't have a job, but I have a plan. I'm not just flinging myself off into the universe. This has been very laid out for myself. I have a plan, and I know that we will not be able to follow the plan. Something always goes wrong, right? And I'm ready to accept that. Hopefully nothing will, but the best laid of plans fall apart. They get peed on and stuff. I don't know. Leaving your job might sound very flighty at first, but I truly think this is me taking the next great step of my career. I think this is a fantastic move for me. I think it is. I think it shows that I am dedicated, and that obviously the next thing that I choose to do, the next thing I apply to do, yes, this is to you, future employers. Hi, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I hope I haven't terrified you. But to me, this means that the next thing I do, I am very dedicated to it, and I've chosen it. I am not going to just go for the next thing, the first thing that pops up. I am sitting with it and I am going to make sure that it feels right. So if you are a potential future employer and I've reached out to you, please know that that has been a very serious decision I've made. I would love to speak with you in the future. And to you guys, thank you. I'm really excited for this next chapter of my life. I'd love to hear your thoughts, I guess. I know this is kind of bold. And honestly, if you have questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I will be keeping you updated on what my life is like. That was another reason why I wanted to tell you about this, because it's going to be hard for me to do a podcast that kind of focuses on my life. And this is a giant change. And to try to not talk about it, it's out there. And yeah, oh God, what have I done? But also, yes, haha, I've done it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Angus IT. Wow, what a time. I am serious. My DMs are always open. Again, Instagram and Twitter at Angus IT. That's Angus like the cow, I like the body part, and T like the drink. I always have a really fun time talking to you guys. Some of you guys actually guessed what the Secret Life project was, so good for you. That was some good snooping, some good sleuthing. Figuring all that out. So I don't know, maybe I've shocked you. I'd love to hear what you thought the Secret Life project was going to be, because I'm so mysterious. Just call me Nancy Drew. Or no, Nancy solves them. Anyway, who cares? If you feel more formal, you can email me at angusit@gmail.com. I also have a website, www.angusit.com, where you can find show notes. I post things there if you're more of a website person, what have you. Let's just be proud, guys. Can we take a moment and realize I have consistently updated my website for months now at a time? Love that character development for me. I hope that if you feel trapped and you're feeling hopeless or in a situation and you just don't know what to do, I hope that even if you're not able to do something as drastic as what I've done, I hope you're able to talk to people in your life and at least figure out what might be a good next step, even if it's small and it's maybe just learning a new thing or reading a certain book or talking to certain people. I hope that you are able to find that, and also that you have the courage to do it. It's possible for you. It is within you. You can do it. I believe in you. And with that, I will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye, Heifers.